Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it.
Good morning, everybody. It's Cowboy Tuesday morning, 8:33 a.m. EST. Started a couple minutes late. Apologies for that. Just was getting through an email. You know how those go. Sometimes they show up out of nowhere. So what's going on with the corn, the Bitcoin? Is it going to bounce here or not, right? It looks like it might. It might very well. Now, truly the bounce is from a little bit lower of a price rather than what it looks like if you take my meaning. So what I mean by that is when you look at this bounce, when you look at the path of price, it looks like it's bouncing right here. Let's make this a little easier to see. It looks like the path of the bounce might look like this, like that. But in reality, as you can see, it goes a bit deeper. You actually have it going a little deeper right here. That's the real area of the bounce. And the implication here is that you're seeing a very faint bullish look on this. Now, I don't want to promise too much. I would never promise anything. Nobody knows the future, but I don't want to give the wrong impression and say that I'm hyper bullish, right? What I've drawn here and what you see on the screen is just the potential path of price. In fact, it could even start to head down right here and then bounce back up and do all kinds of crazy things, right? But the overall look here is a very low volatility time. You see how everything is just kind of going back and forth on the daily. This is on the daily chart. Each one of these candlesticks is a day's worth of price action, and you have a lot of dojis. This right here, this pattern that you see, and I know everybody's talking about it the last few days, but this pattern right here in that box that I'm going to go ahead and code that color, that means market indecision. That means that the market isn't sure what it wants to do, and that's going back almost a full week of trading. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're on day 7, right? So as long as price stays in that area, the market is trying to figure out what it wants to do. That's what all these little dojis are telling you. And they got all kinds of names for these, dragonfly dojis and spinning top dojis. And the point is that this is market indecision. So let's zoom a little bit out and we'll talk about what that looks like right here. And we'll clear some of these drawings off the chart here. Okay. So what you really have is a little bit of, if you go really, really strictly by the wicks, right? You have this kind of rising like new highs. The new highs that you see every month or two tend to be a little bit higher. Now the lows are a little different. You had that panic out low that happened back on Monday the 13th, and that had to do with the Trump coin, and those are some pretty heavy shocks that kind of screwed markets up. But all in all, this bottom is pretty flat, really. So this, I wouldn't really pay too much attention to this top going upwards. It is encouraging to see a new high happen like that, but in reality, you're really just looking at a consolidation. If you want to break it down, my opinion is what matters in this chart is that you're seeing a lot of sideways action. I wouldn't read too much into, oh, it's slightly higher, okay, good. That's good that you're getting higher highs. But in reality, this is just significantly a consolidation. That's what it is from a significant standpoint to me. And what happens next is, it's probably going to continue sideways. I really do think that that's what's going to happen. I think that this lack of volatility in the current week or so is an indication that we might see a breakout. But when professional traders see a consolidation, they do a couple of things. Number one, they look at the high time frame to get a bias as to which way price might go. And according to all the tools I have, technically we are not out of the bull market. So a move up does have a strong probability. However, when you see a consolidation like this and you see the volatility start to really, really wind down, for example, if you look back here, yeah, there's some wicks, but the farther you go to the right, the more wicks you see. And those wicks is a bit of waffling. It's the market not being able to decide what it wants to do. And I guarantee you, if I bring out the ADX on this, and I'm going to do it, let's go average directional index. I'm going to go ahead and bring it on. You'll see that, yep, just as predicted, you're seeing a massive drop off. Now, there is a little bit of a perk up going back to the beginning of the month. So the volatility is coming up just a little bit, but overall in this consolidation, volatility has really sloughed off. And unless we see a very decisive move in the next day or two, which I don't know that we're going to see it, of course, there is a caveat. Caveat emptor, we have CPI, mañana iguana. So we might get that move tomorrow if the CPI is extremely different to what is expected. So this might just slough off and be a lot more calm, right? And now that, again, is going to depend on CPI to a certain degree. And the CPI would just, hot, cold, whatever the print, almost doesn't matter as long as the print is far different to what the estimate is, right? The expectations. So let's just take a brief look at that data, what time it comes out, and what we might be able to glean from what's happening. We'll go ahead and ask our AI quant what it thinks the CPI print's going to be. Now, today is Tuesday, so let's go ahead and briefly look today as well. Yes, Fed Chair Powell, Dr. Chowell, talks in about an hour and a half. That could move markets. You also have President Trump speaking at some point today, and it's a press conference about executive orders. Of course, if he mentions crypto, that could get wild. So, of course, there are some landmines today. If you're trading, I would definitely be careful and protect my positions in whatever way you do that. For me, it tends to be an adjustment of stops. I do things algorithmically, but let's jump to tomorrow. We got Chowell testifying again. I call Fed Chair Powell, I call him Chowell. Chowell's going to talk it again, just like today at 10 a.m. EST. So that's in about an hour and a half, just under that. But before that, at 8:30 a.m. EST, you've got the CPI coming out. Core CPI month over month, that's coming. And that's coming tomorrow, again, at 8:30 a.m. EST. So that right there, what they're expecting is a 0.3% month over month for core and for the non-core. And then you have CPI year over year expected to be at 2.9%. If any of these numbers is extremely different to what is predicted, then you can expect the everything, all markets, Bitcoin, stocks, you name it, to go pretty wild. Okay, so that's extremely possible. Just got to keep an eye out for that. I would not be trading pretty much, I'd say overnight, there is a decent chance that the markets might get pretty quiet. Considering all that's going on, there might be some volatility that gets added when Chowell talks today, along with when Trump talks, which we are not given a time when Trump talks, but that added volatility might be writable. You might be able to trade that if you're a day trader and you're stuck at the computer. And now, if you're a swing trader, I would be protecting my positions. But usually, swing trades, you don't have to worry quite as much about the stops because they're a higher time frame trade. So if you have a good solid stop on that, even though you're giving up some of your RRR, as long as your stop is done in a very calculated way that you always do your stops, then you should be okay. I mean, you never know. You can get stopped out. It's part of the game. Quick look at Solana before we move on to the private live lab. Solana is actually holding up pretty nicely. And again, it's going to be relative to Bitcoin, but you're definitely seeing more of an upward move in price. And then there's that major move here from the Trump coin on the 14th of January. And it did come back down to the levels prior to that move up, but it did not go below, which is actually a really decent sign here. And now I'm pretty sure that whatever Solana does to a certain degree is going to be dictated by Bitcoin, right? And that's just how things work with Solana. The altcoins, Solana not excluded, tend to be like a leveraged version of Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes up, Solana goes up more over time, right? Bitcoin goes down, Solana goes down more. Now, the difference is that if Bitcoin makes a strong move in either direction, initially you can see a dump in any of the altcoins, and then eventually that catches up. But in essence, the altcoins tend to be a leveraged version. But if Bitcoin really, really starts to take off, and I mean take off hard, then you're going to be looking at a different scenario where altcoins kind of drain for just a little bit. Let's do BTC.D divided by 100 minus BTC.D. This is a special formula for Bitcoin dominance that I use. So Bitcoin dominance, and what I've done was I've proportionalized it. I've made it to where you can actually read the chart itself. It's not quite as distorted as it can be. And dominance really spiked up going to the Monday. I think there was kind of a big dump on the 3rd of February, if I'm not mistaken, if I were to overlay Bitcoin on this chart. Yeah, so there's just some price action on Monday where Bitcoin spiked up, dominance went with it. Now, dominance is getting a little quieter, but overall, the trend on dominance is up. So let me take Bitcoin off the chart. Bitcoin dominance is growing and has been growing steadily going back to like last June. So this is a sign that markets may be ready to head up or down, but I think up is the answer. Now, again, we might see a wick or a strong candle or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 or 15 or a lot of candles, who knows, down to grab liquidity on Bitcoin before price goes up. So we have to be aware that if there is some kind of a shakeout, some kind of a market news thing, some kind of black swan, and I wouldn't even really call it a black swan, but just something that's not expected, you have this consolidation down here, and price really could grab this before going up. And I've been warning about this for some time. And Via the Guerilla has told us about some things that sound similar to that as well. So we might actually see Bitcoin grab this before it goes up. And that's if it goes up. And I do think it will. So just covering all the different scenarios, you have the dip before it goes up, just have a possible sideways until it goes up situation. And that could last for a while. You could see Bitcoin go sideways for like another month or two. Easy. You can see it go through March, just keeps rocking and rolling through here and eventually makes its way up. So we have to understand that these things move slowly until they don't. So this is why I like to trade things like Forex. There's always opportunities in Forex. While crypto's kind of not doing anything the last week or so, sure, you can catch some scalps, right? But I can swing trade Forex. I can actually trade Forex and live my life during times like this. So come on over to Algo Factory. We'll show you how you can extract money from these markets. You don't have to have like some fancy degree. You don't have to, be really, really good with numbers. You don't even have to know math that well. But if you are interested in trading, and especially if you're already a trader and you want to improve your profitability, just come on over. What we'll do is we'll help you learn how we extract money from these markets on a regular basis. And it's relatively simple. You have to understand this is a marathon. Putting one foot in front of the other is pretty simple. It's just not very easy. So we take the mystery away from it, and we help you move forward with your trading life. We hope to see you over at algofactory.tech. Never, ever forget, ever, 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 where is my funny thing? Here it is. Never forget.
Join us or die.